Hello there, gang. In the dog days of winter, mid-January, the Red Wings have become just as cold as the temperature outside, and that doesn't really bode well for where they stand right now. And goodness, we're going to get into it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Hockey Town Hangout.
Brings it in, scores! Oh, his first NHL goal is a beauty!
The sickest Detroit Red Wings podcast. It's gonna be sick.
7 teams within 4 points of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. You talk about an absolutely wide open second half of the season where any team can truly grab a wild card spot by the horns and take it. It's there for the taking. I mean, Tampa and Columbus are in those spots right now, and while I think Tampa's probably the best of the remaining teams, we'll say. I mean, you've got teams like the Rangers in there that were won the President's Cup last year and are now down here. Like, it's crazy the different teams. Ottawa taking a step forwards, only 3 points ahead of us. It is wild right now, wild and wacky. Let's get into the last couple games the Wings have had here. So, want to start off with the 5-1 loss against Tampa Bay. So they played this game, I believe it was last Saturday, the 18th. They lost 5-1. Initial thoughts from this one. Don't know if it was a hangover from a couple days before and the massive 5-2 win against the Panthers, where they looked dominant for stretches, and we were all definitely blown away, to just not bringing their best effort in Tampa Bay the next night, giving up 2 power play goals. Obviously, getting 1 power play staying hot, but the 2 power play goals that they gave up, the penalty kill is basically winding up being the exact same thing. And I know we saw some improvement here in the short term, but now that the new coach bump is over and we've gone through a little losing streak after, I'm just very interested to see how this team responds and how they continue to push forward. I mean, Patrick Kane being out this week at the end of the week, like not playing against Montreal, even though they won, and then not playing against Tampa, that's not good news. Someone that definitely is important to this team. 5-1 against the Lightning. They gave up 4 goals in the second period. 2 goals in the first 2 minutes and 3 goals in the first 4. Don't know what was said at the first intermission, but I think it's safe to say that that probably shouldn't be brought out again. Let's see. I mean, to give a power play goal right away, granted, I believe it carried over. Nope, it was Casper that took one very early in the period. It was a trip. And for the Lightning to score, I think like 12, 14 seconds later, it looks like, with their, best 2 players probably touching the puck and Kucherov getting it to Gensel for a power play goal. Just an absolute wrong way to start the period. And I think you saw it kind of snowball into another Nikita Kucherov goal. And I mean, 3 goals in 4 minutes and you're down 4-0, and you can pretty much kiss that one goodbye. Granted, I do have to give the team a little bit of credit. They did fight back. They got a power play goal from Raymond. Power play still staying hot, but this one was kind of a forgetful effort all the way around. In goal that game was Talbot, but they wound up bringing in Lyon. Just an absolute forgetful. We'll chalk that one up to a little bit of a hangover from the massive victory a couple nights prior in Florida. Next game, they had a back-to-back against Dallas, and to be honest, truly just the worst timing. You put up one of your worst games of the season in a 5-1 loss against Tampa, and then you follow it up with a very heavy, strong veteran-laden Dallas Stars team, it's not exactly a recipe for success. Um, and then to start things off going down 3-0 in the first period, these Wings are very make or break in the first period. They're either all over the other team or the other team's all over them. It would be nice if they could continue the consistency we saw in their 9-game point winning streak when McClellan started, and starting out strong, coming out with energy, and carrying that through for 3 periods. It's been a little hit or miss recently. Um, I mentioned the the Lightning game in the second period. They came out and it was flat, and it's just those first 5 minutes after each period. If they can just weather that storm, I feel like they're fine. But for whatever reason, going down 3-0 against the Stars, a team that plays a grind it down, um, take away what you do best style, really truly playoff hockey. Um, it didn't look good. I mean, going down 3-0, they, in my opinion, they essentially salted the game away from there. Granted, there was plenty of opportunities, but really just kind of salted the game away from there. Really, nothing really happened in the second period, and then in the third, you had Casper get us on the board, and actually, talk about Casper for a second. Been loving him on the top line. He had the one game where who was it against? It was against San Jose where he lollygagged on that power play and let the goal in on the shorthanded. Since then, he's really come back strong and played very confidently, I'll say. Definitely had a young rookie moment there, giving up on the play, not trying hard on a play that he probably could have impacted against the Sharks. Not saying it would change the game, but really shook off that effort against San Jose and has come on really strong. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he's got like points out of 2 or 3 of the last 4 games. So he's definitely part of the. Obviously, he's on the top line, so he's getting to stir the drink with Larkin and Raymond. But after seeing Veleno get moved up there and not really be as successful as we thought, the next person that I called for was Casper, and I think that he showed much better. And somebody that, I guess we always thought of his ceiling as like a second line center, second line, maybe 40, 45 points a year. But I think he's shown that he can be more than that. I think maybe his ceiling is probably around a 50. Maybe he'll have a 60-point season in there as he continues to mature. So just interesting food for thought there on the development of Casper. Really enjoyed watching him come into his own. And all I'm going to say is it's amazing what happens when you play young kids and they're able to truly develop at a young age, and you don't have to bring in 24, 25-year-olds. You get these guys time while they're young, give them the exposure to the NHL. Like I think that the 9-game, I guess it wasn't 9-game for Casper. I think he had 1 or 2 because he got injured after the Toronto game. Getting that taste and saying, hey, it is a little bit faster. Take a look, see how fast it is, get used to it, and then go back down to the AHL where it's a little bit slower. Work on your game. Go through it with a fine-tooth comb and then be ready for the speed when you come back up. We saw them do this with Casper, and I'm hoping that it's going to open the door for a lot more guys. Somebody that I specifically have my eye on this year is Carter Mazur. Pretty sure he's coming back real soon with the Grand Rapids Griffins. He's someone that once the Griffins season ends, granted they're in a playoff spot, I believe, and they should be going pretty far. If their season ends before the Wings do, I would love to see him come up and get some time with the big club. See if he truly has what it takes, and if he needs another stint down in the A next season, he absolutely can do that and get his ducks in a row and be ready come training camp next season. All right. Dallas, I mean, just got outplayed. It's tough on a back-to-back. Really kind of an imperfect storm is what I kind of chalk it up to, running into an insane goalie like Ottinger. Let's see. In goal that night was Alex Lyon. Didn't see anything I loved, didn't see anything I hated. Thought it was just, your average night. Wings defense being up and down. Which takes us to the Philly game, which was on Tuesday. 2-1 loss in OT. Um, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. This one was so boring. I fell asleep during it. I don't know what it was. This kind of similar styles, but I totally fell asleep in like the second period and woke up to the overtime goal. So funny story on that. But I wanted to bring up a stat on today's podcast, and in the last 4 games, the Wings have five-on-five goals. Their power play has been awesome. Dare we say, probably the best power play we've seen in a decade plus, probably 50, probably more than 15, probably like 20 years. Probably around that 08-09 season, where they won the cup, where it was as good as this. But their power play has been in the top 10 pretty much all season consistently, top 5 even at points, and it continues to carry this team. I'm just very concerned about their 5-on-5 scoring and their 9-0 run with McClellan at the start of him coaching. It coincided with the Wings having like a 50% power play. And we all know that in an 82 game season, there's highs, lows. You gotta roll with the peaks and valleys. And the power play has been on an absolute tear recently. They are always dangerous, always creating scoring chances, and I love what they've done. But I just don't know how sustainable it is. So I'm very concerned with the lack of 5-on-5 production. Obviously, hats off to the power play and how well they've done, but I would love to see more 5-on-5 scoring. Um, in that against the Flyers, we had Lyon. I'd say one of his more steady performances of the season. In the bit that I watched, he's been looking a lot better and a lot more comfortable after coming back from his injury. I think it takes a couple starts to kind of get back in the swing of things, and seeing him get, I believe it was 2 games in a row. Yep, 2 games in a row because he had the Dallas game where they lost, and then obviously the Philly game right after. Getting 2 games in a row, I think he's finally starting to find his consistency again, which is really exciting because it was about this time last year where Alex Lyon went on his absolute tear and put the Wings firmly in a chance to challenge for the playoffs. So would really be nice if we could continue to see Mr. Lyon catch fire in these really cold months and carry the team back to a potential place where they're fighting for a playoff spot. A little bit more in the thick of things. As I mentioned, Wings are 4 games out of a playoff spot, and there's 7 teams battling for 2 spots. So on the outside, looking in, but with a hot month of Lion goaltending, they can be the team that is in pole position as opposed to being the team doing the chasing. Which takes us to the Montreal game. And I know I mentioned a couple minutes ago the Wings not coming out and being ready to play. That was not an issue against the Canadiens. They came out like they had fires underneath their ass. They came out hustling. I know they finished with like 40 something shots, a season high, just from anywhere and everywhere, putting pucks on the net, wave after wave after wave. It was probably some of the most impressive hockey I've seen in a minute. Coming out, I mentioned it's been feast or famine in the first period. Getting 2 goals, including an absolute backbreaker at the end of the first with, I think, like 5-6 seconds left in the third. Anytime you can get one of those after having such a great first period, being up 1-0 and getting a second one to really feel good about yourself going into the second period, I thought it was awesome. And you could tell the team fed off of it because they came out really hot in the second period as well. Granted, the second period was a tie. I mean, 2-2. Both teams had 2 goals. It was really back and forth, and Andrew Kopp getting a shorty, and Dylan Larkin with another power play goal in that game. I mean, gosh, the special teams play on this team and the scoring on both sides, the power play and on the penalty kill. They've had quite a few different shorties this year. And honestly really like what Andrew Kopp's been bringing over the last couple weeks. He's been someone that's got his nose in a lot of things, and really been enjoying watching him. And maybe more enjoying his role and embracing his role more so than he was here in his first couple seasons in Detroit, and finally starting to see him get back in the swing of things. So really excited for that. Let's see. Talbot. Talbot, I thought was awesome last night. There was quite a few top-notch chances where the Canadians had a grade A chance, and Talbot absolutely slammed the door shut on them. Some funky bounces, some great passes, anything and everything. Talbot was all over it. I walked away super impressed, and I just mentioned Lyon and how well he's been playing after, well, at least in the Philly game. Maybe not so much in the Dallas game, but starting to catch his stride. If Talbot, who also I believe is back from a little bit of an injury, is starting to catch his stride too, and we can get a 1-2 tandem where, last season we had Lyon who was super hot, but whenever somebody else would come in, the momentum wouldn't carry. We can get two goaltenders that are hot and rattle off another 8-9 gamer. We're going to be talking about, going to a playoff game as opposed to being on the outside looking in. So something to keep in mind. These goalies and honestly the overall defense. It's Jeff Petrie not being in the lineup is given a lot of happiness to a lot of fans to see a change of pace back there, but with him not being on that second or third pairing, it is just different. And with the way that Johansson has been specifically on the second pair with Edvinsson, um, that's the way you go. And you can even see like Johansson really had a rough start when he first got called up, but the way he's adapted and rolled with the punches, because he played a couple games, then he got scratched for a couple games, and then he came back once Petrie got injured, and he hasn't relinquished the spot. A 24, 25-year-old guy, someone that we need a second pairing guy to put out there with Ed. That is truly the key to us taking the next step. We have to have a bona fide top four, whether that be Johansson at the right-handed D spot, ASP next year, year after. We got to get someone on that second pairing right side that can solidify the top four so that we can throw whoever we need out there, and teams can't just hunt our bottom couple pairs like they have the last couple years. So really think things have been a lot crisper overall. Granted, sometimes you run into some better teams like the Lightning on certain days, and there's not much you can do, but playing well against the Panthers and stuff, the makings of a team that can make the playoffs is definitely there. It's not the team that we saw over the first couple months under Derek Lalonde. So it's definitely a different team, and only being 4 points out with 7 teams vying for 2 spots, like they're still knocking on the door, and there's still a chance, which is more than we can say in other seasons. So definitely excited to see how things continue to roll, and beating one of the hottest teams in the NHL in the Montreal Canadiens, and also coming out and just jumping on them in the first 20 minutes is exactly the kind of stuff you want to see, because Montreal being in our division and us playing them as many times as we do, and them being as hot as they have been, we're going to see a lot more of them this year and the coming years. So it's going to be a really great rivalry, and I think it's starting to bud right now, and it gets me pretty excited to see where it's going to go in the next couple seasons. But gang, this is Hockeytown Hangout. I'm Forrest, and I really appreciate you guys spending time with me.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Hockeytown Hangout on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.